We are live.
All right. Well, hi all, and welcome to Sales Chats. Today we're happy to be joined by our guest, Christopher George. Welcome, Christopher.
Thanks, Bruce. Great to be here.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with our format, it's a rapid 30-minute conversation where we focus on one subject. Today, that subject is evolution of the buying process. And I'm joined by my colleague in Vienna, Austria, Martha Neumeister.
Hi.
Hi. And my name is Bruce Boyers, and I'm from SalesPOP, online sales magazine, and Pipeliner CRM. Today, I'm sitting in for our regular host, John Golden. If you have any comments or would like to join in the Twitter chat, it's #SalesChats. Martha will be monitoring that, and if anything interesting comes up, she'll either interrupt or answer it herself. And so we'll get right into it. Christopher is co-founder and president at Bluewave Sales and has a background in strategy and business development. He focuses on opportunities with high potential for maximizing growth and long-term sustainability for customers and partners. So welcome, Christopher.
Thank you.
Let's go right into it. Let's start with a basic question. How is the buying process changing?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, and I think one that I am in a particularly interesting position to answer. So we just launched in April. Prior to that, I was, working a strategy role for the last 4 years. So not necessarily focused on sales or business development, but really, on business strategy and product development. And so I had been, out of sales for the last 4 years, maybe even 5. So one of the things that I've noticed is that, the buying process has become much more complex and much more research driven versus being a little bit more transactional as it was years ago. Especially if you even go even further back, if you go even like 10 years back or 15 years back when the internet was still in its infancy. I think a lot of the sales process really was based on either word of mouth or the knowledge of the sales rep and the customer essentially relying on that relationship, relying on the sales rep that they were working with, that they were going to be making the best decision. Whereas now, information is everywhere. It's prevalent. It's not always good information, but it is everywhere. So I feel like people are definitely a lot more research driven. And, the result is that I think the sales process has become more complex, and that the sales cycles, specific, for certain products especially, have become longer.
Okay, good. That's great. And so you're mentioning that the sales process is changing. It's become much more research driven. How are sales reps tending to react to that at this point?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different ways. I think that depending on the suite of services that you sell, they're having to become much more specialized. So you'll see that, if you look at even just LinkedIn and you look at career paths of sales professionals, you'll find that they tend to stay in the same industry, right? Especially if you look at tech, right? Like if we just take that, we'll call it a vertical for the sake of argument, tech, which can mean a lot of different things, right? CRMs are tech, phone systems are tech. There are all kinds of different things that could be considered tech. 15 years ago, if you were selling tech, you could sell CRM systems for somebody for 2 years and then go and jump and sell web conferencing for 2 years if you wanted to. Now it's become very specialized and very and verticalized even within a vertical. So in other words, somebody who has been selling web conferencing for the last 5 years would be a much less attractive candidate for a hiring manager that's looking for sales professionals to sell their CRM system, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So they've definitely had to become much more specialized at this point.
Okay, great. Well, one of the things that we've noticed is that it's smarter for a salesperson to get involved with the sales process earlier. In other words, get in front of a person that's doing the research.
Correct.
And that leads to my next question. What are some strategies to get involved earlier in the buying process?
I wish I had a silver bullet for that one. We'd all be rich. But no, you're right. You're exactly right. Listen, once somebody has made the decision to buy, you're already too late. Okay, that means they're already talking to somebody else. There is an incumbent. Whether or not that's the right solution for that person, they've already kind of built a relationship, and they've already structured that that stakeholders' buying expectations around their specific products, capabilities, feature sets, pricing, etc. So those expectations have already been set. There are preconceived notions, and now you've entered the sales process essentially as product B for comparison's sake to make sure pricing is correct. So you're right. You absolutely have to get in when the customers are doing the research, and the only way to do that is through networking, right? So somebody's in your personal network, and you know, they know who you are, they know exactly what you do, and they proactively reach out to you and let you know that they have a need that they're going to begin to research and they want some advice on.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, you're straight prospecting, right? And part of your prospecting is making sure that you have an effective email campaign with a drip campaign follow-up, so that, you know, you're not annoying, but you're adding value and you're staying in that potential customer's ear, so that when they actually do become a buyer in motion and start to want to embark on that research process and that buying process, they say, oh yeah, you know what, you know, I don't know a lot about those types of tools, but you know what, Christopher George, it might not even remember my name, but some person has been sending me emails for a year. And you know, every week I see an email in my inbox, and every week I know that it's about this subject. So now that's the path of least resistance for me. Okay, you know, at the end of the day, I'm an internal stakeholder, and I might be in the financial services industry. I don't know anything about phone systems or CRM systems or any of these things, right? So, you know, it doesn't really benefit me, my career, my resume as this internal stakeholder to go and research and try to learn all this. I'm busy. I've got meetings all day about my business. So I'm always, you know, it's human nature to take the path of least resistance and say, I know that this person, this individual has been emailing me. I know that this is the subject that this individual is an expert on. You know, they've been consistently in my ear. I am going to call that person because that is the easiest thing for me to do.
That's great.
That's how you do it.
That makes total sense. That makes total sense. We've also run across people that say that because social selling has become such a big buzzword, and I know that some of it's real and some of it isn't. Yeah. But does social selling play a role in getting out in front of a buyer while they're doing this research?
I honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. You know, I'm 42 years old, and you know, I am not. I literally just set up an Instagram account about a month ago. That is my first foray into social media, period. Like, I don't even have a Facebook. I never even had one. I personally don't. I personally don't even get it. So you know, you could call me a dinosaur or old school or whatever, but like, I see these people, you know, on their phones and they're doing stuff with Facebook. Even my wife, she's on Instagram constantly. I'm like, I don't understand why you're on there or what you're doing. I have heard that it helps and that people, you know, buy or get their information that way. I personally do not. It may or may not work. And I can tell you as a business owner, right, a very recent business owner, that it is something that we've looked into. And my partner is a little, well, quite a bit more progressive than I am. He's a little bit younger. He's about 6 years younger. So he has Facebook and he has Instagram and he has Twitter and he has all these things. And we've talked to a million people about it and we've gotten a million different answers. And at the end of the day, we decided we don't know. We can't even get enough information to make a decision as to whether or not it's worth us investing in it at this point. Not even to mention the fact that we don't even know what we're doing. And
right.
We could screw it up potentially, right? So I don't know what I don't know. So I don't even want to like go down that path because I think I probably will more likely do more harm than good. So I apologize that that's probably not a wonderful answer or it doesn't benefit anybody here today. But
kind of a refreshing change, given that you know, social media has given such a buzz right now and for the last few years, you know, so it's kind of a refreshing change to run into somebody that's successful that doesn't go that route so much, you know.
Yeah, we've been just fine without it. I'll be honest with you. You know, we're exceeding expectations every month by 4 to 5x, and we don't use it. I mean, we have an Instagram account, we have a Twitter account, we have a LinkedIn account for the business, but we don't do anything on it. I mean, other than announce that, hey, we're Bluewave Sales, this is our, you know, LinkedIn account, or this is our Instagram account or our Twitter account or Google Plus account. Like that's it. Like we don't know what else to do. But yeah, we've been fine doing it the old fashioned way.
Okay, that's great. Well, then answer me this. So how are you getting out in front of people just on a lead generation and prospecting type strategy? What are your recommendations for that if you're not doing social media?
Yeah, so we are doing email campaigns. So we do you know, mass email campaigns through lists that we create, and we use a number of different, you know, sources and databases to do that. You know, for our business, we are typically targeting you know, IT professionals, senior IT professionals, so CTOs, CIOs, VPs of IT, directors of IT. So we are getting in front of them that way. We are also a little bit unique in that my partner and I, you know, have had pretty long and successful careers and have been fortunate enough to be in very senior positions at, you know, pretty decent sized organizations. So we have huge networks. And quite frankly, a lot of what we do is calling on people that we know and that we've worked with in the past and had great experiences with, and saying, hey, you know, you know, we founded this company called Bluewave Sales. You know, we focus on communications and IT solutions, and we help companies buy these solutions in a better way. Would you please refer us to the appropriate person within your organization so that we can have a 30-minute conversation and learn a little bit more about the projects that they have decked against the second half of 2017 and see where we might be able to add some value. And we've been tremendously successful just in having those conversations alone. And those conversations beget new conversations, right? So anytime we close a deal with these individuals, we ask for referrals from them, right? Who do you know in your network? Now that you've worked with us, you've had a positive experience, you got the solution, the right solution that you needed at that time, you know, who can you recommend that we help that's in your network next? And so that's really what we've been doing. And you know, you could make the argument that maybe that's not tremendously scalable, and I would agree potentially it is not. But you know, we also have typically 4 or 5 different projects that we work on with these companies versus one, so it's a lot less transactional. It's a much longer term approach where we are working on multiple fronts for them. And you know, while our networks are finite, our customers' networks are infinite, and so that's really what we've been focusing on in conjunction with the email campaigns. And the email campaigns, you know, are, you know, quite simple, right? You do your A/B campaign, which subject gets the most clicks, which content within the body of each email, you know, gets the most click-throughs to your site. And then it's as simple as picking up the phone, you know, like you would have done 20 years ago, and calling up and introducing yourself. And I think a lot of people are really surprised to hear a voice from a salesperson on the other end, because a lot of people don't use the phone anymore. They rely on email or they rely on social media, and they tend not to actually have these conversations with people. And I can actually attest to that from my own experience sitting on the other side of the desk for the last 4 years. There were very few salespeople that actually called me. I got a million emails a day, and I got to be honest, I ignored almost all of them until I had a need. And then if they were consistent but not annoying me to the point that I would put them in my spam box, I would remember seeing something on a weekly basis and say, you know what, I'll call that person because that person has been consistently following up with me. Other than that, I maybe in the last 4 years received 3 phone calls from a salesperson.
Wow. Yeah, that is amazing. So what would you say are some of the strategies for, because you're going in kind of cold calling a little bit here.
Oh yeah.
what are some of your recommended strategies for getting the person talking and getting them interested when you're going in on a cold call and you're having to get by the wall of voicemail and the whole thing?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. So always have a script, right? Always, always, always. Even if you know your business backwards and forwards, you know all the value propositions, you know everything, always have a script and try to be as succinct as possible and try to make sure that you talk about how things will benefit them. Are you going to save them money? Are you going to save them time? Are you going to make their life easier? Are you going to, enable them to be more productive, right? There are things about your product that matter to the client. The client doesn't care about your product. The client doesn't care, or the prospect rather, doesn't care about the features, right? They want to know what's in it for them, right? The old whiffum, right? What's in it for me? Okay.
Right.
So it's really hard to do. And it's actually, I find, even harder in an email to do that. But on the phone, when you call them up, Christopher George, Bluewave Sales, just need a couple minutes of your time. And I want to talk to you about how we can help you, do these things in a better way, or we find that IT professionals face the following challenges. Wanted to let you know you're not alone and that we help people like you all the time. Give me 30 minutes, right? And you always have to have a call to action. Always have a call to action. And it's fine to leave them a voicemail. Don't leave them a 10-minute voicemail. Don't leave them a 5-minute voicemail. Just hit a couple of bullets. Make sure you tie them all into what that customer potentially is feeling based on your knowledge of your product and the problems that it solves, and ask them for an action. Do you want an email? Do you want a phone call? Do you want a 30-minute meeting? Those are the things that you do when you're on the phone prospecting, and that is the only way that you'll be successful.
That's great. That's great advice. Well, let's change tactics here a little bit and talk about technology.
Sure.
PipeLiner, of course, is a CRM, and there's a huge number of technological solutions out there these days. Talk about how technology ties into today's sales process and how that can help.
Sure. So that's another question I think I'm uniquely qualified to answer. So my partner and I actually met 16 years ago at WebEx Communications when it was a startup, and before it was purchased by Cisco, and before anybody even knew what web conferencing was. And our role at WebEx was not only to sell the product, but to educate people on what it was. They didn't know that they needed it because they didn't know that it existed. And so flash forward, 16 years today, I think everybody can see my office in the background here. I mean, I use technology every single day for every single thing that I do. All of our meetings are on WebEx or iMeet, PGI, Adobe. We resell all these products. So we use all of these products to have conversations with our clients, right? We rely on CRM systems, right, to do our email campaigns and our drip campaigns, to log every single conversation that we have with a client and set up action items, follow-up tasks, things like that, schedule events. That is exactly how we use technology. We used technology for databases and for creating lists. We use Office 365 to collaborate and work together, right? SharePoint to use to be able to post and use almost as an intranet with our sales teams. So these are the types of things that we use, constantly. We have, apps on our phones that allow us to interact with all of these systems as well. If we have to, run down the street, and grab an iced tea or something, again, the way we work is very different because it's all virtual. So everything we do is technology based. I don't ever meet my clients face to face. I never get on an airplane. It's all virtual. Everything is based on technology.
Wow, that's incredible. So how would you say when a company is just getting technologically savvy, which a lot of them still are today,
right.
how would you recommend that they choose technology wisely?
Well, I'd recommend that they go to www.bluewavesales.com
Of course.
and give me a call, because that's exactly what we do. So, beyond that, what we would do is we would go in and we would meet with the stakeholders, and we would find out, obviously holistically, just tell us about the company, the background, your background. What are your goals? What are your objectives? What are your priorities? And then once we have the prioritization, we go through and we document requirements, right? That's a critical piece that I think a lot of people don't do. Okay. You're going to go and buy a new CRM system or a new phone system. Okay. Who in that company is going to use it, right? Not just the person who is tasked with making that decision, right? You need to go and talk to the other stakeholders, because on a CRM system, for instance, the person making the decision is likely the VP of sales. But guess what? He may be on the back end of everything. There could be somebody that's managing support, and they could be on Zendesk. So they pick a CRM system that has a pipeliner integration, or a Salesforce integration or whatever, but but lacks a Zendesk integration. And so now what you've done is you've picked a system that only works for one piece of the company's user base, and you've created conflict. Whether it's immediate or not, it's never going to be a long-term solution for you. It's not scalable because it didn't meet needs of both parties within the organization. So I would say that, for anybody that's going out there and starting to look at technology, talk to the people in your organization before you make that decision to even talk, before you even start to search. Find out who else would need access to that system and why. Document your requirements, and then find out who the players are that you should be talking to. And that's exactly what Bluewave does for our customers.
That's great. Well, yeah, and we've seen a lot of companies that I mean, it used to be a traditional CRM thing where it was like the IT director that would choose the product.
Right.
And then the sales guys are like, what is this?
Well, yeah, and then they don't adopt it, and it has no benefit. All it is a cost and a burden, right? And it just makes everybody upset, and nobody uses it, and it doesn't do all the things it was designed to do. It doesn't help you nurture leads. It doesn't help you move people through the pipeline more quickly. It doesn't help you close more sales because no one will adopt it. It doesn't help you retain customers down the road because, maybe it doesn't meet the needs of the customer support team, right? So there are all kinds of issues that it could cause.
Right. Well, good. That's good. And now here's an interesting question, because I've personally seen this quite a bit. What happens when a company's gotten invested into a technology, and we've seen this actually quite a bit with Pipeliner coming in, and they have to switch. And when a company's gotten really heavily invested in something like, I'll just pick a name out of the air here, Salesforce, something huge, right?
Yep.
And they find that, what, we've gone down the wrong path here. How would you recommend that a company switch semi-gracefully when that's happened?
That's a great question, and it's do a post-mortem is my advice on that. It went sideways, it's dying or dead. You spent a ton of money on it. Look at it. What happened? What went wrong right from the beginning? Who was involved up front when the decision was made? How has the company changed in the intervening months or years? Try to figure out where things went sideways in the life cycle of that product or service, okay? If you don't understand why you made the mistake and what caused all that pain in the past, there's no way you can do it right going forward. It's just like relationships, right? Like, I mean, you get married, you have a wonderful life, then all of a sudden you get divorced, and you don't ever look at yourself and say, well, how did I contribute to this, right? What went wrong with me, right? Then you're not going to be healthy for your next relationship. So I think the software is the same thing, and that's something that I did. Again, I think I am uniquely qualified to answer that question because we had systems that didn't work for us, or vendors that didn't work for us. And, I foolishly early on in that role just went and switched systems because I thought, it's just the vendor. Well, you know what? It wasn't always just the vendor. The vendor contributed to it because it's a relationship. But at the end of the day, there are a lot of factors that happen internal to an organization that really are predicated on whether or not that system is going to work.
That's great. That's a great answer. So, because I guess the first thing is that you have to decide that you are going to switch. You are going to get out of something that's not working anymore.
That's correct. Yep.
All right, good. Well, we're getting toward the end of the broadcast now, and we always like to ask our guests for a supercharged tip for success, something that they do on a daily basis to remain in the right mindset and stay successful. So can you talk about one of your daily secrets to getting in the right mindset for success?
Oh, boy. Yeah. I don't know how achievable it is, but Folsom Lake is about 2 miles that way, and every morning I get up at 5 or 6 in the morning, depending on the day, and I go out there and I go for a run on the trails for 4 or 5 miles. And I'm all by myself, and I'm out in the woods looking at the beautiful scenery and exercising and thinking about what I want to do for the day. What did I do yesterday? That's usually what happens for the first half of the run, and by the second half of the run, I'm usually not thinking about anything. And that's really my secret. And then I come back and I stop at Pete's on the way back to my house and I get my iced tea and I'm ready to face the world. So that's, I really do. I am a very firm believer that, exercise and trying to stay physically fit helps you as much mentally as it does physically. And it does for me. I mean, it really is a release for me.
Well, that's fantastic. That's great. Well, we've got a few minutes left here. Talk a little bit more about the buying process and getting in front of people, and actually just kind of wrapping it up, getting in front of people and having the right technology and kind of tying all that together.
Sure. Yeah. So I would say make sure you've got a plan. Okay. And make sure you have very, very measurable goals for that plan so that you can evaluate the efficacy, right? So you always have to be looking at, what is it that we said we were going to do? What is it that we did? How successful was it, right? And then that gives you the ability to figure out where you need to be able to make changes. Leverage technology, leverage your CRM system to always take notes. I mean, it could be the dumbest thing. You can get on the phone with somebody that you've been trying to get in touch with. They finally answer the phone. Oh, you know what? Sounds interesting, but I can't talk right now. Well, guess what? They're just trying to get you off the telephone. Okay, well, is there a better time to call? I don't know. It's Bobby's baseball game tonight. I got to go and do that. Call me in a week. Great. Had to go to son Bobby's baseball game. Call him in a week. Hey, Bill, how's it going? How was Bobby's game? Did he win? Those are the types of things that I record. And it sounds really dumb, but I swear it just takes them off the defensive. It makes you more human, and it makes them more comfortable talking to you when they know that you can remember things about them. And I told you when we first talked this morning before everybody joined, I didn't remember your name immediately after you told me. Like that's just I don't know. I'm terrible with names, but the CRM system allows me to remember those things, those small little details that I think, and personally, not just think, I know make a difference in my sales efforts.
Right.
Yep.
Well, that's great. Well, that's great. Okay. Well, that's pretty much all we had. So let's go ahead and end off. It's been fantastic talking to you.
Thanks, Bruce. Likewise.
And have a great day and do great.
All right. Thank you. You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.